Africa Business Radio, your one-stop resource platform for all things business news, economy, leadership, productivity, investment, and more. ABR, towards a profitable Africa.
And we're back. Please follow us at Africa Biz Radio on Twitter, on Facebook, Africa Business Radio, hashtag HRWired, or drop us an email, info@africabusinessradio.com. So our next guest is coming to us from the Turnaround Management Association of South Africa, the TMA SA. We're fortunate to have Bruce Berry on the line. He is the COO. Bruce, are you on the line with us?
Yes, good morning.
Fantastic, nice and loud and clear. So the TMA, we are going to be discussing doing a business health check on your business. So take us through the TMA. What do you guys do? What is your function? What is your reason for existence?
Okay, the Turnaround Management Association, we deal with what's called corporate renewal. Basically, it's to deal with businesses that get into some kind of distress, and there needs to be some kind of turnaround plan or strategy that needs to be put in place in order to turn it around to get it back to some kind of healthy status. And I don't know whether you're aware, but the company law in South Africa, the Companies Act, has now made provision for what's called business rescue. You might have heard that term being bandied about when we talk about things like SAA, etc. So now this is also a formal prescription in terms of the law, which you can actually file for business rescue. And as part of that business rescue, as the name suggests, is that you get a business rescue practitioner.
Right.
And his job to come up with a business rescue plan, a turnaround plan for that business. But of course, that's the formal route. That means you have already understood that you are in big trouble.
Right.
That you need some assistance in order to get you out of that trouble. And as you were talking earlier about unemployment and so on, the whole purpose of business rescue is to maintain some kind of value within that business rather than going the straight liquidation route, which would lead to the business probably closing down and being chopped up and sold off in some kind of fire sale.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing we need is more businesses closing down.
Well, exactly. That's not to say there will never be liquidations, but I think the point is that should be your last resort rather than your first one.
Yeah.
So TMA, our members are actually the business rescue practitioners, etc., the people who are involved in what we call corporate turnarounds. But there can also be what's called an informal workout, which you would do yourself as a business when you understand that you might have a problem before it gets to some kind of situation whereby you feel you need to take the legal route. Because once you're in business rescue, you get legal protection, which means your creditors can't attack you.
Right.
So you get the opportunity to come up with the plan and the turnaround. So one of the issues, of course, is to say to people, like also, using the medical analogy, prevention is better than cure. So rather find out in advance what the problem is. So do some kind of health check on your business before it becomes necessary to go the formal legal route. Because, of course, that becomes quite complicated and, of course, it can be quite expensive.
Yeah.
So we also, as TMA, the members are all those professionals who are involved in what we call corporate turnarounds and workouts, business recovery, basically. Right. So that's TMA.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want to do is actually get to the point where you need this business rescue. So basically, you must put your checks and balances in place. Using, once again, the medical analogy, take your vitamins, do your exercise, and keep up to date.
Yes, exactly, precisely that. And I think the point then is, it depends obviously on the size of the business and how big it is and how complicated it is, etc. But there are kind of standard, what we call quote-unquote health checks that you can do for your business.
Yeah.
That actually should be done on a fairly regular basis, exactly using the medical analogy again, to make sure that you are not slipping or, something might have happened, perhaps which is even beyond your control in the external environment, which might be impacting on, your business, your cash flow, your ability to conduct, your business on a sustainable basis. Because what happens in many, many cases is that business people, they get locked into doing things the same way over and over again. And sometimes you get a blind spot and you don't see something which might, happen on the side, which can actually have a very detrimental effect on the long-term sustainability of your business. And it's the external party, the third independent party, i.e. like a workout professional who can come and say, why don't you do this instead of that? And suddenly, boom, you haven't seen that because you haven't seen the wood for the trees, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. At the coalface. Well, you know what? You're sticking to your knitting and doing what you know best. And, some people just aren't business people in that way. They do not look at the preventative measures. I remember many, many years ago, I used to chat to people who would go to companies and they would do preventative maintenance. And this was one of the worst spends a company could make. They hated doing it. But preventative maintenance keeps you up and running. Yes, it's a grudge purchase, but it is necessary. So preventative maintenance across the board, business, machinery, you always have to do that preventative maintenance.
Yes, exactly. And of course, as you say, it becomes a grudge purchase because you don't think, well, I really need to do it. But actually, if you haven't done it and then you get hit by something, then of course you always regret that. One of the issues also these days, everyone talks about risks. You need to be aware of things that are happening in the environment all around you. And the latest one, of course, to hit South Africa has been the cyber attacks.
Oh, right. And the ransomware.
Quite lately. So, for example, even if you're a fairly small-scale business, are you aware, of course, number one, that the possibility of you being hacked? Number two, what are you doing about it? And it needn't be a huge, a theft of data or something. It could be just a simple phishing email that says to your CFO, please make a payment of, say, 50,000 Rand into such and such an account. And if you don't have the checks and balances in place, you will make that 50,000 Rand. And that, for a small business, could be the difference between making your workers' salary run on Friday or not. So it's little things like that. So you have to be aware of the risks. You have to be aware of the external, factors that could affect you. And then obviously your internal ones, the market is changing. Today, petrol's going up again. How does that affect you? Your cash flow going forward. Are you going to be able to make your repayments that, so you satisfy your creditors? Because if you don't make those payments, then they will attack you. It's that kind of thing that you need to be up to speed and on top of your game all the time. It's Absolutely. a 24/7 business, and you have to be aware of the risks. You have to be aware of what you can do to mitigate them. And if you feel that you're in trouble, or you feel that maybe you're not necessarily actually aware of what the possibilities are for, whatever risk there might be, then that's when you would need to call a professional in to come and assist you. And it needn't be a long, complicated story. It could be just a simple, as we call it, health check of your business. Where do you stand? Are you up to date? Are you protecting yourself sufficiently or not? If the answer is no, then what can you do to improve it?
So would somebody come to the TMA and you guys, and they're not specifically in any kind of trouble, or the business seems to be plodding along at its own merry pace? Do you guys do these audits? Do you do these health checks? Do you sit down and you highlight problem areas?
Yes, that's as I say, that's what can be done, and we emphasizing all the time, don't wait until it's too late. Yeah. Rather get, as you said, the grudge purchase, etc. Rather do it earlier rather than later. Identify any problem that you have when it's still a small problem, because small problems become big problems, and when they're big problems, they demand action, and that action can sometimes be, very, very expensive. And that can be the difference between life and death, the usual story.
Where do you see most of your business coming from? Is it the small to medium, medium to large? Is it the large corporate companies? Is it across the board?
It depends. Obviously, the large corporates are the ones that kind of make the headlines.
Yeah.
But it's any form of business. One of the issues that we find that is particularly problematic, though, is mainly the family-run businesses, because, as you mentioned earlier, they've done the same thing for many, many years, and this is how they do it, and they know how to do it. They've built it up, and they know best.
Yeah, well, there's a sort of arrogance factor attached to that.
Well, and the market might have changed, or the environment might have changed, so maybe they don't know best anymore. And sometimes they, not necessarily receptive to the advice that you might give them. Yeah. But, again, that's part of the process, I guess.
I think one of the best pieces of advice is that I heard was put your pride in your pocket. Losing your company is not worth your pride.
Well, exactly. And, I think that's the point. The point is just to highlight what are the gaps. And if you can make an improvement, and these days it's a very cutthroat, very competitive environment, and you have to be up to speed. And if you're not up to speed, you're going to get taken out by somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely 100%. Bruce, I'm afraid we have run out of time. It is 11:31 already. Thank you so much for your time. It's fascinating. I would love to delve deeper into this. I'd like to get a sort of a 5-point or a 10-point check that every businessman can do. So hopefully we can get you back on the show in the coming weeks.
Yes, sure. No problem. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. That was Bruce Berry, COO of the Turnaround Management Association of South Africa, the TMA SA. Fascinating stuff. It's such a pity we didn't have more time there. So that's a wrap for this week. What a show. I am going to go home and I'm going to go climb into bed and just weep and moan quietly to myself. Thank you so much, B. Thank you so much, Saji, for this morning's broadcast.
The weather isn't that bad, though.
No, it's not that bad.
Yeah, you just need to chill.
Except my joints are like 500 years older than yours, so they just don't actually work.
I can imagine.
So thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Africa Biz Radio, on Facebook Africa Business Radio, #HRWide, or drop us an email, info@africabusinessradio.com. And please visit the App Store, download our app, and you can take us wherever you go. This is Gavin Smith. Thank you very much for joining us. See you next week.
The key to success lies in nurturing today's talent and shaping the future together. Tune into HR Wide every Tuesday on www.africabusinessradio.com at 10 a.m. Central African Time for your weekly dose of HR insights, innovation, and debate. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.